next topic comes from patreon.com/kindafunny. We're busting out. This is a different show. I thought I'd go through and get a whole bunch of people's done here. Kenny Char, who also pops up on the Gamescast because he's so supportive. He submitted this topic, which is, was there anything that you deluded yourself into thinking was great, be it games, movies, music, etc., until later coming to your senses and realizing otherwise? It's happened to me several times. Most recently was the Legend of Korra video game. I pre-ordered it, played it for around 3 hours on launch, and loved it. When I woke up the next day, I discovered that it was really a flaming pile of something else. Thanks, and kinda, Kenny Char. Funny. Kenny Char.
There you go.
Also, to cross over with Kenny Char's other topic, I cut him off on that because I wanted us not to ruin what we remember. This was the one of game endings that stuck with you. I never said what his were.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Char's 2 endings from that topic on the Kinda Funny Gamescast were, my 2 would probably be endings for The Last of Us, which was, in fact, a great ending, and Flower, which was good, not great, but one I still think about quite frequently.
I don't even remember the end of Flower.
I won't ruin it for you, but let's just say
There are
you're
flowers.
really a tiger.
Oh.
All right, so Kenny Char, things that deluded yourself into thinking were great but weren't. I got them in spades.
Really?
The big one, of course, and I've talked about it before, so I won't beat it forever, is Superman Returns. Saw it at launch. I was followed by...
Is that the Henry Cavill one?
No, that's Man of
was
Steel.
Man of Steel.
Ralph.
Yeah, Brandon Ralph.
Oh.
Ralph, excuse me.
This is the one where I was working at the Columbia
The
Tribune.
kid that has asthma. And
Yeah. He pushes the piano. I went and saw it at the midnight launch, and I was working at the newspaper, and the newspaper sent one of our photographers who they do multimedia projects to follow me to do a multimedia project about it, right? So it's like this still picture documentary, but then with audio recorded over it of me talking about it. So I'd done the whole thing like leading up to it, and then it was like coming out, giving my first reaction to it, I think I reviewed it for the paper too, if memory serves, right? Because I was going to go see it at midnight
5 out
and
of
stuff.
5 stars.
I gave it something ridiculous, maybe 4 out of 5 or something, whatever. But it was just like,
see
it was just so
credibility on
excited.
that
Like,
one.
you understand how long I waited for that moment, right?
Yeah.
Through the Nicolas Cage rumors, through everything else, through Kevin Smith's writing a movie. You know, like, you're like, it's finally I get this movie, and yeah, it's fucking Superman. It's awesome, and it's Bryan Singer who did X2, which was so fucking good. He won't fuck this up, and he's paying homage to Donner, which I love. He's blinking 3 and 4 out of existence. It's like, yes, he's saying all the right things. You know what I mean? And I'm watching every behind the scenes like vlog he put up before we called them vlogs, and I'm reading the comic book leading up, so I know all the backstory and stuff. And yeah, you went and saw it, and I remember in the interview I talked, I'm like, I don't know, there's something I can't express yet, but yeah, it's good, and it's blah, blah, blah. And I saw it the next day in theaters, and the next day in theaters, and I think one more time in theaters.
You saw it 4 times in a row?
At least, yeah. And then bought it, of course, when it came on DVD.
Jesus Christ.
Watched it over and over and over again. And I'll never forget, it was like a year and a half into owning this DVD. I'm playing it, and I'm with my girlfriend at the time. And I'm watching this movie, and I'm just like, oh, and here comes, watch how Bosworth delivers this line. She's such a terrible Lois. Look at how stiff her performance is. And I go, I hate this movie. I hate this movie. I've tricked myself. It's been years of this, and I've just discovered this movie sucks.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's way too long and bloated. Nothing happens in it. Why does Superman have a kid, and then why is there no resolution to it? Like, what the fuck is going on? Why is it the same plot as goddamn Superman 1?
Yeah.
Why can't Lex come up with a better idea?
Yeah.
He's not
Oh,
gonna.
that's smart.
Even if Superman was dead, someone's gonna come on that island and tell him you can't just own an island you made. This doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah. How's
How's he gonna get electricity to this island for people to come live?
Perhaps there's
Solar
a
power, buddy.
military or 18 that might be a little pissed off that you just threw out the ocean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that wasn't one for me. That was that. I think one of the ones for me was I kind of talked myself into liking the second Matrix movie. I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, it was dope. That scene remember that one scene where they're fighting on top of the thing that's like really, really long? Like to the point where it's like really, really long, like almost a little too long. Like actually now that I'm thinking about it, it was
Makes
a little
sense.
too
I
long.
I like that.
Yeah, and then like the cool twins that like looked really dope, but like were kind of not cool looking. And then you get to the point where you're like, oh, that was a dope scene where he. No, I didn't really like that scene either. And you just get to a place where you're like, shit.
Yeah.
And then the third one came out. I'm like, oh no, wait, yeah, the only one I like is the first one.
Yeah, that was like
That was the
everybody,
first
right?
one. My wife does this thing where, and I had to learn this early on, where she'll take a franchise that I love, and just by virtue of her watching it with me, it will make me not like it anymore because it will ruin it for me. Yeah, and she knows that she does this, so she doesn't do it anymore. But she almost, I try to introduce her to Battlestar Galactica and Firefly, and both of those that I have, of course, love. I still love, and I'll recommend them to anyone today. They're both a phenomenal series, but they're very dated. And I look at them because I'm willing to look past that because
Sure.
I watched
'Cause you
them
watched
when
them
they
at-
were
yeah,
happening.
exactly.
I finished Battlestar as the last episode was like, I caught up like right. It was the last 2 episodes were like airing, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. But then I go to watch them with my wife, and she's like, I don't know, it's just kind of like whatever. It's not much there, and I'm like, maybe no, she's not right. I'm like, no, fuck you. You gotta go home. You gotta go to the other room. But I learned that with Psych too. I was watching Psych with her, and she's like, this is the dumbest show, and I was like, yeah, that's why it's awesome. She's like, no, that's why it's dumb, and I'm like, leave this room.
Yeah,
just
just
leave
get outta
this
here.
room.
Don't make me think about this. I don't want to think about these things.
Yeah, she almost ruined Walking Dead.
No.
No, and here's what happened. I was like, God, I think I'm really
I don't
getting
watch
into the show, and she sat down to watch an episode with me and was like, I don't think I like this, and I'm like, no, this is heartbreaking to me. And then she was like, whatever, I'll just read my book. And she starts reading her book, and I'm like, I bet by the end of this episode she's gonna want to watch the next one, and she did, and we went all the way current. And then she was like,
Is she still
shit.
reading that book? She still had the facade the whole time?
Oh
with
no,
the-
she put it down eventually and
okay.
was
She
like,
carved
I think
eye holes in the book so she could just hold it up and watch the TV.
It went through that whole process of like she's not thinking too much about it. It was awesome, by the way. I did that. Sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake today. But yeah, she went through the whole process of like kind of looking over, who's that? Started asking questions, and then about like 2 episodes in, she was hooked.
Book
Went
away.
back and watched all of the first and
Nice.
second season.
Nice.
Loved it.
It's a slow burn, man. Walking Dead. That's the thing. It's a commitment. I understand why people cannot be into it and da da da. But like,
I didn't
I want to
really
talk.
like
We
it.
haven't talked about Fear the Walking Dead.
I've only seen episode 1
I've
because
only
we've been
seen
traveling so
episode
much.
one,
I haven't
too.
seen any. There's 2 episodes of regular Walking Dead now, right, that are up and running, and I haven't seen.
I thought it wasn't back.
I thought it. Unless I'm wrong, I thought they came back the same day, so it was Fear the Walking Dead leading into
what's
Walking
that?
Dead.
I think the Walking Dead's not back yet.
Oh, then that makes me. I'm not behind anything.
Yeah.
What?
What's Fear of the Walking Dead?
Fear the Walking Dead is the new spin-off that's the prequel to like the Walking Dead we know. It's happening in LA instead of Georgia. It's like it starts with the
Is it
regular
just brand new people, nobody in the comics?
right.
Or?
Exactly. Yeah. It's his own thing. So far, who knows if somebody will cross over eventually? But yeah, it's its own thing, and it's like the reveal in the beginning, like the first that you wouldn't know this because that's how they sold it, right? But like it picks up, and you're like, is this the apocalypse already? Has it already happened? And then the guy like runs out to run away from it, and he like runs into traffic, and it's just normal LA. And so like you're there from like this is all starting for everybody. Like how's everything?
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's real cool, and that's why episode 1 I thought was really well done. I'm like, ooh, fuck, I want to
Tim
see
told me
episode
that
2.
people panned it. They were panning it online. I'm like, why?
Guess what? I mean, like here's my problem with the
People hate everything.
Exactly, for sure. And I just don't sync up. And granted, I'm a Kirkman fanboy. It's been admitted a million times
Sure.
over. And like, I've just never sunk up with people's dislike of the TV show and stuff. And I just don't know if it's
Ever? You've
I
enjoyed
can-
every.
no. And that's a broad brush, and I'm painting
Okay.
with it as well. You're right. But it's just like people have been saying for years that it's so stupid, nothing happens in the show, and da da da. And it's just like. But there's so much
There's so much
development.
that
and like,
happens.
look at
Even people like-
Daryl. You know what I mean? Daryl and Carol alone, just watching them. You know what I
Daryl
mean?
and Carol.
Dude, even people that give
just
season
like the
2
Daryl.
Interesting.
shit,
Yeah.
and was like, oh, you just got to get through season 2.
Yeah.
I was halfway through season 2, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I can stick with the show because
Yeah.
everyone's right. Yeah, season 2 is really slow. By the end of it, I was like, holy, because there's that
Yeah.
big thing that happens in the
Yeah,
end. You're like, holy shit, I
Yeah.
get it. I just got trolled for like 12 episodes.
Yeah.
That was awesome. This is amazing, and like, what a fucking reveal. And that's what this series is going to be to me.
Yeah.
It is just going to be one kick to the dick after another, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
and, and it's all about the slow character
And
development.
that's
why
it's just for reading the comics for so long, not to be one of those guys and hipster about it. It's just like I'm used to the fact that it's like you get lulled into the false sense of security, which can feel boring. I remember when the stuff was in the prison was happening in the comics, and just being like, all right, like, are we ever gonna get out of this fucking prison? And then
Yeah.
like 2 issues later, it's the kill them all scene, and you're like, oh my fucking god, like
Yeah.
everything you thought that was like everything's gonna be fine, it was like totally
Everything you
fucked
know
now.
is
It's like that's great.
Yeah, so that's why I'm really liking that series, and Danielle liked it as well. My wife
Good.
liked it as well. She was I mean, I'm hooked from the beginning because it's cool because she was like, we never got to see this, right? Because if you remember correctly, he wakes up,
Yeah.
and everything's fucked.
Yeah.
you
And that's-
never saw society just go down. You see,
And
it in
that's my
flashbacks
thing
here
is
and
like
there.
for me with zombie movies in particular, like the story I always find the most interesting is as it happens. I love Dawn of the Dead, James Gunn's Dawn of the Dead, or however you. How do you do that? Do you say the writer or do you say the director? Seems like it's the director always gets credit. for it.
Either. I mean,
All right,
either.
whatever.
People
the
usually say
remake
Zack
of Dawn of
Snyder's.
the Dead. I love that fucking opening. That opening is so fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? Of just Sarah Polly coming
don't
home.
know,
Well,
so-
you wouldn't watch it, yeah. But she comes home from a night of work. She's
nurse.
she's a nurse at the hospital. Things are starting to get busy, but she's like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm leaving. She goes home to her husband. She's missed their favorite show. They have sex in the shower while this news report breaks in that they don't hear or whatever. She had talked to her the neighbor kid outside, da 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 da. And then they wake up in the morning and everything's starting to be completely fucked. And it's like, comically fucked in the beginning compared to like Fear the Walking Dead right now, where it's very like
It's slow. Like,
there's
it's
weird
slowly
reports they're
devolving.
hearing. This kid wants to bring a knife to school because he's afraid of this. It's like awesome the way they do it. And it's like already though it's moving so fast. And then, granted, this kind of infection thing would happen really quickly,
Yeah,
but
it
it's just
happened
like
really fast.
I'm already that first episode. I was like, oh, just go a little bit longer here. You know what I mean? I hate when it gets so far gone of like where they. I like Walking Dead. Don't get me wrong, but like. Them having their own civilization or society or whatever they're building now in their like weird town. It's like, yeah, all right, but like, what was it like to be in Atlanta when it fell? And that's why I loved the book so much, like Rise of the Governor and shit like that. Where it was like, we're gonna tell you like what these people went through or did. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm right there with you, and that's why I like it. I mean, and I also love that they tend to pick characters that are atypical. They're not your like Rick Grimes was an obvious choice for a character at first, and then of course he goes through a transition where he hits a very low point and then comes back as the person we want him to be, but he's totally different. He's totally transformed. But look at our main characters in this. We've got 2 school teachers and a heroin addict.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. And so how are they gonna like? You're setting them up for just sheer disaster. They should not be able to survive this. So that's what I'm most fascinated about. Is I'm terrified for them, and I want to see what that's going to what they have to go through to survive, because I know what it takes now. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Is like, shit, I know what it takes. I know what Carol had to go through.
I hope that this ends eventually, and it's just them. They're all dead. You know what I mean? Like they just couldn't hack it, because you know what I mean. Like
That would
I
be
can't see any
awesome.
of them making that change. But I mean, I also knew Rick so well. I guess
I couldn't see Carol making the change.
Sure.
Carol's like a motherfucking badass.
Yeah,
I feel like you're talking about things now that you just like.
We are. Christine, what is something you deluded yourself
Sorry.
into not liking? Or I'm sorry,
No.
what's something that was bad that you deluded yourself into liking?
It's hard for me because I don't have that many precious things. I don't feel like you have Superman and Ghostbusters and things that are. Like,
Oh, I can name a bunch of Guild Wars.
It's not like if there's a thing that comes
Quest
out
for
and I don't
Glory?
like it, I'm not gonna think that I like it.
No, I'm saying
because
these
I
are
like the
bad,
thing.
and you've deluded yourself into liking them. Oh, you like MOBAs too? Like what are we fucking talking about?
I played League a bit. It doesn't mean I'm in love with MOBAs. I've never played Dota. I don't think I ever will. But the thing that I was thinking about when you guys were mentioning Walking Dead, and I don't hate this and I don't think it's terrible, but Game of Thrones is kind of losing me.
Ah, yes.
And I've read the books, and the books are getting progressively worse as well. So like, we watched part of season 1
we
where we were stopped. I was like, I don't like this. Nothing good happens in this.
And this is like when it was happening, by the way, to give you time frame.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So this
A
is
few
several
years
years
back.
ago.
Yeah. When it debuted, we were in from the first episodes, and I was having that thing. She hadn't read the books yet.
Yeah.
And I was watching, and I do the same thing I do now, where it's just like people pop up or they mention somebody by a name, and I'm like, who is that?
Yeah,
What is that
it was
person?
confusing. It was hard to like keep track
Yeah.
of everybody, and then it was just like everything is awful.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he hates this about me, but I'm somebody who just wants to watch comedy most of the time.
No, I don't.
Like, I
don't.
want to.
But I'm like, Christine, there's this fascinating documentary. She's like,
I'm
oh,
like,
it
I
sounds
don't
sad.
care.
I'm like,
I
oh.
want something that's gonna uplift me. I don't need to be drugged down. Like,
I'm right there with you.
Listen to Josh Groban albums and leave me alone then.
I
He
no, I
raised
mean,
you
I
up.
I was like, doesn't he sing saddish songs? But I guess not. I don't know.
that's Malcolm McDonald.
So, no.
But
That
anyways,
that was a pretty good.
so we
That's
stopped
not Michael
watching.
McDonald.
That's not.
Who's that?
Subway. What were
Caribbean Queen, fuck.
Who did that?
Is not.
That's not Michael McDonald. I'm sorry. Maybe it is.
yeah.
Maybe it is. I don't fucking know. Anyways,
No, it's not.
I'm
Fuck,
right
forget
there.
it. Anyways,
You think
stick
about it. I'm right
Game
there
of
with
Thrones.
you.
Game of
though.
Thrones. So we didn't really like it. We stopped watching it. Then I was like, you know what? People keep talking about these books and how good they are. I'm just gonna read them. I was going on vacation soon, so I grabbed the first one. And I was like, I really like this. So then I started reading them, and I think it was like up through
Billy Ocean.
book 3, and I was like, these are really good. I like this a lot. I like this is going. 4 was good still, because it had Dorne in it. But then like the last book I just read was a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
And they've already caught up to it on the show.
Yeah.
So, and the last season of the show, I wasn't that motivated to even watch.
No, see, and that's
Yeah,
the problem
that's
is we are in that fatigue area with the show. It's because I think it's that 5th season like slump, and like every show hits it. Like I don't care how good the show is, 5 seasons without a resolution of some sort, people eventually just go like, I don't need this in my life that much anymore.
Right.
It's not as important as it was, because at for the first 2 seasons or 3 seasons, look at Lost, right? And Lost is another one where I think I didn't delude myself into liking it. All of my friends deluded themselves into liking it past season 3. No, season 1 and 2, phenomenal. Probably some of the best television ever made. I will put season 1 and 2 of Lost up against any other season for their time and during that moment, and how much you were in love with those characters. And then 3 starts happening, and they had that problem where they had to keep it going because it was such a moneymaker for the network. And it just became its own worst parody of itself, where nothing made sense, and all of the stuff they were driving toward, they were like, "Shit, we have to throw that. We have to like pad, man, just stretch because we need 2 more seasons." And all of my friends were like, "No, it's still good." And I'm like, "This is not good anymore. It's not. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like any of the characters. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't know why they're off the island and back on the island." It would have been so cool to see that go through just 3 seasons and done. That would have been awesome. But that's what we're in with Game of Thrones. Where like they're gonna go 2 more seasons.
And well, the books aren't even fucking done.
Yeah, that's the problem. So what are they gonna do next season?
Yeah, they're just making shit up.
They're gonna pad an entire season, of content.
Like, what?
So I don't know.
So yeah, I don't. It's and not only that, but I feel like the seasons. It was less annoying when there was the first few, but I feel like it's just getting to a formula to the point where that's why we kind of stopped watching. I mean, we ended up going through and finishing it, but it was kind of a struggle. And that is like nothing happens. Amazing episode where shit happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Oh, another. It's like there's like 2 or 3 episodes you need to really watch the season, and the rest is just filler.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw out another one that I kind of. This is actually a perfect example. For like 2 or 3 years, I was like, because all of my friends love this series, and I had read the books beforehand, and I'm like, it was
Harry
huge.
Potter.
No.
Fucking Potter.
God, no.
Harry Potter is fantastic.
It's fantastic, and anyone that argues opposite,
will kill.
I will strangle you, and I will watch the light just turn off in your eyes as I do it, just seep away. No, Lord of the Rings. It was one of those where I watched it. I read the books. Everyone was into it. They made this big push, and I was like, I'm going to read these books because they're classics. And I'm like, I really liked these books. And it was such a struggle to get there. I read like 1 a year. That's how hard they were for me to read because I was like, I don't really like this.
I haven't even read them. I just tried.
You're a nerd.
God,
I liked The Hobbit a lot.
So The Hobbit was good. The Lord of the Rings was when he was like, oh, I can just write a ton of stuff and have him sing and do all this shit and like.
Yeah. And
it was. I mean, it's an epic. It's thousands of pages, I think. The story is cool and the world they built is cool. But when they went to the movies, I was just like, I don't need this to necessarily like. I don't need all this because a lot of it is unnecessary. Like there's the war, and I watched it a little bit on the plane. That's why on the way back it was on.
Oh yeah.
So I was watching it. I'm like, oh man, I forget. Like I really just don't vibe with this story at all. It does not do it for me. I really don't care about anything because I guess at the end of it, I was like, all that really matters is that he throws his fucking ring in the thing. Everything else is ancillary. Yeah, 100%. Sure. Like, oh, there's the orcs are coming up and they're gonna kill the kingdom of men. I'm like, yeah, but as long as he throws the ring in there, Sauron won't come back. And that's really all that matters. And he's the one that's like driving like all this stuff. Bad guys, so who cares? But yeah, remember how much everyone loves that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I
still really like them.
From the jump, I knew those weren't my kind of movies. But it was back in that day. That's what your friends went to the movies. You went to the movies, and I watched them, and they were fine. I'm like, all right, whatever. But it's just like when The Hobbit came around, I was like, nope, I am done. I do not want to see any more of these motherfuckers. Get out of here with your Shire.
The Hobbit is a short story, so I would have been okay to see The Hobbit if it had been one movie.
I wish they'd have done that.
And then when they were like, we're splitting it into 3, I was like, fuck you, I'm not saying it.
They're not splitting it into 3. They're splitting it into like 3 2.5 hour long films.
Right.
Where I'm like,
where it's like, how could you possibly have stretched this material?
Oh my god, it's so. I just watched. I want to say, what is it? Oh, the War of 5 Kingdoms or whatever, or 5 Armies, the last one that came out. And I'm like, because I want to know what happens. And I watched it, and I'm just like,
the book. It's a lot shorter.
I mean, I did read the book.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I know how but the book didn't. The book wasn't about necessarily like the movie's going a lot more depth of like the smog is like not the main.
So what you're saying is they make shit up.
I don't think they made stuff. I know they went into some of the other source material that was around
the appendices. That was a big deal.
Cerulean or something like that. There was some other
Silmarillion.
That's what it was. I don't really know what that is, but I just know that
it's another book.
Yeah, so they went into that.
I didn't read that one either. I literally only read The Hobbit from him.
No, it was beautifully done. It's a beautifully made movie, and if you're into that lore, I can see why you would like it. But I'm just like, dude, like this could have been so cool if they had just made a 2-hour long movie.
Yeah,
because I like the art direction behind it, and I like the world, and some moments of it are beautiful. But they start talking about characters. I'm like, what? You talk about Game of Thrones being hard to remember. Everyone's named either Aragorn. There's an Eric Can, Eric Martin. Like, there's a bunch of other. Ex-head of social at IGN is in it. I don't know. It's too hard for me to get into. I can't get into it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Final topic. Yeah. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Strap in. Nick, this is your expertise.
Look, I got a surfboard, Greg. I got a surfboard in my hand. Everybody
Going on down
It's
to
just
the
the
surf
table.
shop.
You're just holding
Oh,
the
is it
table.
the table? I thought
Yeah.
it was a board.